guess my first question, Dylan, would be how did you approach the role of Principal Wilkins? What experiences or references did you draw from in creating and sort of shaping that character?
Well, it's interesting. From the beginning, Michael Dougherty made it very clear that my Principal Wilkins was a real traditionalist.
Mm-hmm.
That he was a guy that, just like Sam, believes in following the rules of Halloween,
right,
and punishing those who don't.
Right.
So I think I love that part of it. I loved approaching it from a very positive viewpoint, rather than a guy who's in his hometown just looking to kill people,
right,
and go and grab people, but instead that he's a guy who wants to root out the people that don't treat Halloween in a good way.
Right.
And I love that. And Sam, I think he comes to the door, and once I give him a little candy, he says, "Okay, you can go on doing what you're doing. You're all right."
Right.
And so I think he signs off on my behavior. I think Sam would agree that the principal is actually doing good for the town and for his family.
Yeah, I mean, I guess there's a sense throughout the film, and it's evocative of a lot of classic horror, from olden times, or even from Tales of the Crypt and all, like EC Comics, of a sort of a skewed sense of justice.
Oh, I certainly agree with you. I think that Trick or Treat sort of sets a standard for a modern film that reaches back towards telling a story, and letting people laugh and get to like characters and then be scared out of their minds. Those old kind of anthology movies like Tales from the Crypt, or
right,
even those old television series.
Right.
What was it called? Night Gallery?
Night Gallery, yeah.
I loved those shows.
Right.
Loved those shows.
Right.
And there was just, something about them that they would, each story you'd kind of see for itself what it was. But what Mike's done, which is so great, is they start weaving in and out of each other, which is really wonderful.
Yeah, I noticed the absence of a lot of things that date movies, like for instance, like a smartphone today in 10 years will seem archaic.
I think that's true.
Yeah.
I think that's true, and I think Michael really started out with that vision because he had these drawings for us to look to sort of get a sense of what he was going for, and they always had this feeling of like, when is this exactly? And you really couldn't tell. It was just at some point in the past, or maybe it's tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
He's really good that way, and he created a world like that. There was that poor neighborhood in Toronto where they never did stop with Halloween. The folks had their yards all dressed up like Halloween.
Did they get some ordinance or for citation from the city or something? I know in some places you can't.
You gotta take those jack-o'-lanterns down.
Most people are lazy that way with Christmas lights and stuff, but for Halloween it's actually kind of cool. So, and you've touched on it, but could you elaborate on some of the attachment you have to Trick or Treat?
Well, I think for me it starts and ends with Michael Dougherty. I mean, I could tell when it started generating some heat, and we'd go to Comic-Con, and there'd be all these people just going nuts about it, and I'd just turn to him and say, "How did they see it?" And he said, they'll do anything to see this film, and there's many more people that want to see this film. They may not know it's there yet, but they want to see it.
Right. I mean, you've just touched on something that was going to be my next question. Sorry to interject there, but like you mentioned Comic-Con, and I was going to follow up with fans and fan sites like Geeks of Doom have sprung up and are bringing attention to lost gems like Trick or Treat. I mean, and so it's all part of this rise of net culture, and especially geek net culture, that I think it must be very encouraging, for a professional actor and filmmakers who for certain projects that do need to have the fan base champion.
I think it's happened a lot through the ages. Some executive deciding that people wouldn't like something,
Right.
and the people stepping up and saying, "What are you talking about?
Right.
I want to see this. This is exactly what I want to see."
Right.
You keep saying the word geeks, and my wife was a part of the original cast of Freaks and Geeks.
Yeah.
She played the mom in that, and NBC had no idea what they had.
I know.
And just canceled it before it had its full run.
Yeah.
Now people are watching the reruns again and again on different channels on the cable, and also have the whole DVD of all of the shows, and it's got a life of its own because of the incredible cast and Paul Feig and Judd Apatow, and you just can't stop it. And for me, it's championing people like Andrew Curry, who did Fido, and Michael Dougherty, who did Trick or Treat, because they're the ones that come up with the vision of it, and they should be supported, and they should be allowed to help their studios find their audiences, because they are there. Obviously, he was right all these years ago. That audience is there, and now I'm excited that Legendary is going forward and trying to give people a little taste of what they hunger for.
Can you speak to a little bit about why the movie? I mean, it had a fair budget. It has great production value. Why was it pulled?
It's hard to say. I think people have these hard and fast rules that they live by, and the fear was, because it was an episodic thing, that it wasn't one plot from beginning to end. The girl leaves her house, then has to get back to her house, and what's in her house? Is she going upstairs, and then she goes running out of the house? If it's not just one thing, I think the thought is that people just wouldn't react to it as well. And
that just so underestimates the audience's intelligence, doesn't it?
I think it does.
You know,
I think it does. It's just like you gotta let people have a chance at seeing something like this, and then find out whether you're right or not. But I know it's a big money thing to step forward and say this, but I really always thought that Halloween would have become a natural home for this film, and that the whole month of October and November probably, that it could have just run and run and run.
You're about to be in Anchorman 2. I just saw the second trailer. You're in it prominently, and it seems, you're playing some slick kind of guy. It looks really big. I mean, how do you feel about becoming one of the potential legendary Anchorman characters? T-shirts and stuff,
It was such a joy working with those four guys, and Adam McKay, who is funnier than any of them. Adam is hilarious, and you talk about actors taking a role and just going with it. They all immediately fell right into their roles from Anchorman 1, and there's a certain wonderful thing about Anchorman 2 that they haven't changed at all.
Right.
There's nothing that growth and time have done for them.
Right.
It's all exactly the same.
Right.
I